Good evening, and welcome to the realm of cursed stories. My friends on screen, tonight is no ordinary night. We are moving towards the darkest hours of Halloween. If you want goosebumps, you're in the right place. Now, I'm going to tell you the story of the curse of Raven's Hollow, abandoned deep in the misty forests of New England. Remember, some doors should never be opened. Before we dive into this chilling adventure, don't forget to support me so that these horror stories can continue to grow my channel. And to be instantly notified of new videos and more cursed tales, please subscribe and spread the curse by liking this video. Get comfortable in your seats, turn off the lights, and put on your headphones. Enjoy the show and have a spine-tingling listen. Halloween Night, The Curse of Raven's Hollow. This story takes place in Raven's Hollow, a fictional, haunted town in the New England region of the United States. The narrative will be detailed and atmospheric, reaching a duration of at least 15 minutes. It was an hour before midnight. The calendars showed Halloween, October 31st. Introduction: The Road to Raven's Hollow. 20-year-old history student Ethan Crowley was tired of spending Halloween in a big city with a mundane costume party. His obsession with horror and the supernatural led him, after months of research, to a town called Raven's Hollow, located in one of New England's most forgotten corners. Raven's Hollow had gained notoriety during the 17th century witch hunts, but was mysteriously abandoned a century ago. Legend had it that the town's last residents collectively committed suicide after a mass hysteria episode, exactly on a Halloween night. Since then, the town was known as a dead zone and did not appear on any official map. Ethan got into his old, battered Jeep. With him, he only had his backpack, a flashlight, a camera, and most importantly, a handwritten map supposedly drawn by one of the town's last survivors. The journey began in the rugged, rocky terrain of Massachusetts. The asphalt soon disappeared, and Ethan had to drive his vehicle on a muddy, potholed forest road. The air was cold, and a thick ocean fog was rising from the depths of the forest, so dense that even the car's headlights struggled to penetrate it. The radio signal had long since vanished. His only connection to the world was his own terrified breath. Finally, through the curtain of fog covering the windshield, a darkened, decaying wooden archway, like a broken gate, appeared. On it, a nearly illegible inscription read, "Raven's Hollow. This place is forever dark." Ethan stopped his vehicle. As the engine died, a deafening silence enveloped the surroundings. This was no ordinary silence. It was a silence of ominous anticipation, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. He passed through the archway and entered the town. Raven's Hollow embodied all the cliches of a ghost town, but in reality, it was far more terrifying. Wooden houses like crooked teeth lined up, most of them rotting and roofless. A prominent church stood in the center, surrounded by rusted iron railings, its spire reaching into the sky like a fractured bone. Ethan walked towards the church. The crunching sound of his shoes on dry leaves and broken glass echoed through the empty streets. When he reached the town square, his eyes widened in surprise and fear. In the square, 4 torches were burning. These 4 torches were placed on a stone pedestal in the middle of the town, emitting a dim, flickering light. This contradicted all claims that the town was completely deserted. Right next to the torches, on an old bench, sat 3 figures. All 3 were in Halloween costumes. One in a tattered priest's robe, another in a mute sailor's costume, and the third wearing a pure white, expressionless porcelain doll mask that completely covered its face. Ethan swallowed hard. He composed himself and approached them bravely. "Good evening," he said, his voice sounding unfamiliar even to his own ears. "I'm Ethan. This is Raven's Hollow, isn't it? I was just searching the town." The man in the priest's robe slowly raised his head. His face was in shadows from the flickering torchlight. "Research, is it, young man? We were expecting you. A stranger coming to Raven's Hollow on Halloween is a tradition." The figure in the sailor's costume brought a finger to its lips, signaling silence. It did not speak. The person in the porcelain doll mask let out a faint giggle. The sound was as grating as fingernails on glass. "We look a little spooky, don't we?" were portraying the last residents of the town, exactly as they were on that terrible night. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to run, but his historian's curiosity and the eerie theatricality of the scene held him there. "Are you really portraying the last moments of the townspeople?" he asked. The priest's voice was gloomy and deep. "On that night, a century ago, this town made a sacrifice. The town's belief was that on that night, a spirit needed to be offered to a supernatural entity, so that entity would not take away the other souls of the town. But the sacrifice rebelled against this ritual. It resisted, and this began the curse. The porcelain doll, as if on a stage, extended its hand. The town's curse returns every year on Halloween. The soul of the chosen sacrifice is separated from its body exactly at midnight. And at that moment, the souls of all the townspeople awaken to find the next victim." "That's just an urban legend," Ethan said, trying to hide his tension by putting his hands in his pockets. "As far as I know, all the townspeople committed suicide." The priest laughed. It was a dry, wheezing sound. "Suicide? No, that was a lie told by the survivors. They didn't commit suicide. Their souls were taken to unite with the soul of that sacrifice. Their bodies were abandoned by their spirits." The figure in the sailor's costume stood up and offered Ethan an old, rusty lantern. The light inside the lantern was almost non-existent. The priest explained, "We have been waiting for years. There is only one way to break the curse. A new, pure, and innocent soul must be offered in place of the one who refused to be sacrificed that night. You, Ethan, you brought that soul here." Ethan recoiled in horror. "What are you talking about?" The porcelain doll giggled and threw something onto the stone pedestal in the town square. It was a tape recorder. "Your research," said the priest. "Everything that brought us here. Your curiosity, your pure belief." Ethan suddenly felt a jolt of realization. The man who gave him that map, the person supposedly one of the last survivors of the town, he had never existed. That map and the notes on the tape recorder were traps designed to lure him here. Ethan turned and started running towards his jeep. However, beyond the wooden archway he had passed through to enter the town, there was no longer a single road. There was only an endless tangle of trees. As he ran, whispers filled his ears. Countless, muffled, and agonizing whispers. These were the century-old spirits of Raven's Hollow. "We don't belong here, but now neither do you. Our curse will end with you." Ethan stopped in terror. The light from the torches behind him had vanished. As his eyes struggled to adjust to the darkness, for a moment he saw faces in all the windows of the town. Pale, suffering, soulless faces. The priest, the sailor, and the porcelain doll were approaching him with heavy steps. They were no longer just three people. Behind them, shadows joined their ranks. "It's time to go, Ethan," said the priest, his voice now echoing through the surrounding fog. "Your soul will set us free." Ethan pulled his camera from his backpack. In a last desperate attempt, he fired the flash repeatedly. The blinding flashes of light made them pause for a brief moment. Seizing this opportunity, Ethan ran towards the church. The church door was ajar, and from inside, a strange, ritualistic melody emanated. He rushed into the church. Inside, the area was illuminated by torches. In the center, an empty stone altar stood. The altar was covered with dried, dark brown stains. Blood. The church door slammed shut behind him with a thud. The priest, the porcelain doll, and the sailor emerged from the shadows next to the altar. The faces beneath their masks no longer bore a human expression. Their eyes were blackened like coal. The priest held an old, rusted dagger. "The sacrifice, take your place." Ethan leaned his back against the altar. There was nowhere left to retreat. His eyes shifted to the church ceiling. Dried and faded clothes hung from the ceiling beams. Each garment belonged to one of the cursed townspeople. And now, among those clothes, a new place had been made ready. Ethan felt the cold metal of the dagger touch his skin. The pain was sharp and searing. And at that very moment, the midnight bells began to toll. The cracked bell in the church tower let out a shrill and agonizing sound. Zong, zong, zong. With each toll of the bell, something was being pulled from within Ethan. His memory, his personality, his very being. He was no longer a historian. He was merely a sacrifice. The last bell toll. Zong. The pain stopped. Ethan's body slumped to the ground. The dagger slipped from his hand. The priest and the others were now mere shadows. A gloomy silence remained. The next day, the morning after Halloween, Ethan's Jeep was found abandoned right in front of the wooden archway at the entrance of Raven's Hollow. The investigation found no traces, no evidence of the town. Ethan Crowley had vanished. However, a year later, on the next Halloween night, in Raven's Hollow, by the torches in the town square, 4 figures were sitting. One in a tattered priest's robe, another the sailor, the third the porcelain doll, and the fourth, holding a notebook, wearing a worn backpack, was dressed in an old historian's costume. Its eyes were blackened like coal, and it was preparing to lure the next curious soul to the town. The curse continued, and the one telling you this story was a new part of this cycle. Good night from Raven's Hollow.